welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. And this is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Now write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. You got it. We're giving away 9 vacations during this show. The vacations are sponsored by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. And today's trivia theme is what they usually said. And you'll understand when we get to the questions. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Now, today's special guest is Irene McDermott, who is a specialist with travel. And since the holidays are upon us, we thought talking travel was a good idea. Irene, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Well, great to talk to you, Edward.
Hey, Irene. So you're an expert on internet travel, and what are some full-service online travel agents?
Well, when my patrons come into my library, I'm actually a full-time reference librarian in a public library, so I'm often trying to help my patrons find the best deals on travel. So I'll take them to the online travel agents, which are really, they've become called travel agents or full-service companies. Travelocity is one, you probably know.
Oh, yeah.
Expedia and Orbitz, and even Priceline, can get you tickets not only for flights, but for hotels and even cruises. So they're considered full-service travel agents.
So do many people, or what's a compelling reason to continue going to your local neighborhood travel agent versus the online?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're making complicated arrangements in other lands, there's very good reason to go to a travel agent, because really they're the experts on making connections in other places, and they've been there, so they know. So if you're just flying up across the country or just up the coast, you can make your own reservations. But if they're going to be complex, it's often a wise idea to talk to a travel agent.
And then what are some good sites that you've actually found for finding like really good deals on tickets?
Well, it's funny because there's the big travel agents online have been accused of sort of price fixing and not really giving you the best prices.
Oh, I remember hearing that.
Yeah, this was a couple months ago. So the best one right now is Kayak.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
I've heard of that one, Kayak.
Yeah. That's kind of like
Yeah.
Sidestep, too, I think. Very similar, where they just do a multitude of... in fact, they compare, like, Travelocity, Orbitz, and Hotwire and all that.
Yes, and I believe Priceline just bought Kayak, so we'll see how independent it stays.
Interesting. Yeah, the thing that turned me off about Priceline years ago was the fact that they would not tell you, what hotel or what airline, when you were traveling. I mean, it was sort of like kind of this last minute thing, and it's like, wait a minute, I kind of like to know ahead of time.
It's like that surprise goodie bag that you buy for $10. I wonder if it's worth it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So, I mean, I've had really good success with Travelocity.
So Irene, in the past, were you a brick and mortar travel agent, or did you start out online?
No, I'm a librarian. I'm a straight up librarian. So I write a column for a librarian magazine, and that's how I do my research.
Oh, I see. So I mean, it's winter, but a lot of people are still planning on traveling and setting their plans now. And if they're going to go abroad to Europe or Asia, how do they know if their cell phone is going to work, and what should they do to get ready for that?
Well, it's true that in most countries other than the United States, our cell phones do not work. You're in luck if you have a phone from AT&T or T-Mobile, because those have SIM cards in them and are compatible with, for instance, cell phones in Europe.
Yeah, I was told to actually like turn your cell phone like in airplane mode or something off, especially if it gets internet, because it just costs way too much to get all that information.
Absolutely, and I just returned from a trip to England, and I had my phone off the whole time. I borrowed an international phone from a friend and bought a SIM card when I landed at Heathrow.
What is that? What kind of card?
A SIM card.
SIM card.
The SIM card, yeah.
How much does something like that cost?
I paid £10 for mine, but it didn't give me much time. It looks like the standard price is about £20, which would be about $30.
Well, that's not too much. I'm just kind of wondering, it's like if people are trying to call me when I'm on vacation in Europe, what should I do?
Well, I would get, if you really need to talk to them on the phone, you could Skype them, actually.
Yeah.
That's
In
what
fact,
people do a lot.
my son he was traveling in New Zealand, and we went ahead and we never talked. But what we did was, I sent him regular emails, and then we did Skype. It worked great.
Yes.
So did you say earlier if you have AT&T or certain of the carriers here, it would be okay, but still probably expensive? Or?
Well, what you would do when you arrive in the foreign country in the airport, you would purchase a SIM card for that country.
Ah, and you insert it in your phone.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
see.
a little card out in the back. There's a new one.
Well, you'd think with all global stuff that they would just make it kind of normal, so you wouldn't have to do that.
I guess the national phone companies have a way of doing it. What about finding free Wi-Fi while you're traveling?
Well, the best advice for finding free Wi-Fi is to go to a bakery.
Go to a bakery?
Bakery,
Yeah.
my favorite place.
That's exactly what I thought you'd say.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big surprise. Wow.
And a McDonald's, of course, is always a great place to find free Wi-Fi in any country, as well as to find a potty.
Oh,
That's right. That was going to be a question because that was a question toward the end I was going to ask you because I thought if I just say donde está el baño, that works in all countries, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so here's a question for you. How can I get recommendations for good restaurants and hotels?
Well, the best site for that is tripadvisors.com, and you can get that as an app on your phone or you can get it online. These are mostly user-contributed reviews of places, so you can often rely on that to find a good spot in any country, really. If you're in the United States, I use Yelp all the time, but you can use that in England, for example.
Well, here's one of the things I was going to ask about the hotels because I was just reading an article where they said that if you are traveling on weekdays and on weekends, that sometimes you're best to book 2 different reservations. You heard that?
I have not heard that, but that's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Why would that be?
Well, because they have different rates on the weekends versus the weekdays if they overlap. Yeah. But I think if you call the hotel and tell them ahead of time, a lot of these hotels will work with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
so we're talking with Irene McDermott, and we're talking about how to use the web to plan your vacation and save money. And Irene, so we were just talking about international. What about traveling across the United States? Any recommendations for some good websites for helping to plan your U.S. road trip?
Well, there's a couple of really great, funny websites that are just so much fun to help you find interesting things around the country. And one is called atlasobscura.com.
What was that? Atlas?
Atlas Obscura.
I like that.
Atlas Obscura. And that just has very weird, interesting sites like dental museums or bone museums.
Dental museums.
I tell you what, years ago we did a biking trip. My wife and I went back east and we did Bike Vermont. And we caught it right at the right time because it was toward the tail end of the season. And we saw the best foliage that they had in 30 years. It was great. It was very reasonably priced too. Okay, we are in the studio here with Irene McDermott, who's a specialist with travel, and soon when we come back, we're going to get into other things like frequent flyer miles and cards, and then Irene's going to have a couple of gifts to give away because she's also been an author.
Great.
And okay, now last week we actually asked our special trivia contest, and that was let's see here. What was the question? The question was. Here we go. For some reason, I'm going crazy here. Okay. Over 10,000 people visit emergency rooms every year with injuries related to what? The answer? Shoveling snow. Now, we don't understand that in California, and our winner was...
Never would have guessed that.
No, Jenny from Santa Rosa, and she won
congrats.
a stay at the in Tiburon at the water's edge because romance awaits. Situated in Tiburon over San Francisco Bay, the Water's Edge Hotel sports world-class views of Angel Island, the Bay, and San Francisco. This highly acclaimed 23-room boutique hotel offers delivered breakfast, in-room fireplaces, and, get this, Duxiana beds. Visit watersedge.com. You know how expensive those Duxiana beds are? I mean, it's worth staying at the Water's Edge just to sleep in the bed. Okay.
Awesome.
Now, here is our first trivia commercial break. Okay, remember, and it's what they would say. Which famous director of scary movies, including The Birds, had his own TV show in which he usually would start off saying something like this: "Tonight's show is about a merry widow." All right? Not bad, huh? Okay, the first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website again is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What famous director of scary movies, including The Birds, had his own TV show in which he usually started off saying something like this: "Tonight's show is about a merry widow." 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, email address, and speak slowly and spell out your information for us one letter at a time, please, and we'll be right back. Excellent.
Awesome.
So we went through most of those questions.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's always more.
Yeah, there's always more.
Yeah.
Like I want to really get into like frequent flyer miles. Are you quite the expert on frequent flyer miles too?
Well, I have been doing some research on that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
See, I keep getting letters in the mail from United saying my frequent flyer miles are about to expire, but I've been getting those for like 2 years.
2 years,
now.
yeah. That's a good one.
What are they proposing you do?
You know, I don't even read them anymore. I don't even know what because it's just.
That's it, right?
Like I said, nothing has been. I mean, they keep
Yeah,
sending me the
wonder if their time is passing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't just go on one airline anymore.
No, that's why I found with Travelocity, with their credit card, which they used to have MasterCard, which was better. Now it's American Express.
Yeah.
And you can use it for anything.
American Express, you can. I have a friend that does that.
No, but I mean, it's Travelocity's card. They just happen to use American Express instead of Visa or MasterCard, but it's Travelocity. So you have to use it on Travelocity. But
but you can
Travelocity,
go to any
Travelocity.
And American Express will let you go on any airlines.
And
Where I
they have a
have
special
a
one,
Visa, and it's just for U.S. Air, so I have hundreds of thousands of miles for U.S. Air. And say I want to fly to New York in June, they say we only have one seat available.
I know. That's
always.
That's
I don't know if
what drove
other
me
airlines
crazy.
are like that or not.
That's why I stopped using U.S. Air because I could never get on.
They're
like terrible. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to come back. I'll answer the question and I'll reintroduce you. Okay.
And then the first question is cheap gas. Maybe. Are we on that one?
That's your next one. Is cheap gas.
Smartphone apps.
Yep. Okay. The smart apps, and then we get into the frequent flyer miles.
Yep. Okay.
Away we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hoff of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schitt of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question: what famous director of scary movies, including The Birds, had his own TV show in which he usually started off saying something like this: "Tonight's show is about a merry widow"?
That would have been Alfie.
Alfie. Yeah. What's it all about?
Alfie Hitchcock.
Alfie Hitchcock. That is correct. And we're in the studio here with Irene McDermott, who is quite an expert on travel. And Mark, you've got a great question for her.
Well, we were talking about traveling around the U.S. and are there any websites or places I should be going for maybe locating the cheapest gas?
Absolutely. And in this time of high gas prices, you cannot do without GasBuddy.com.
Gas Buddy. Now,
Gas
what does that
Buddy.
do? Does it give you like within a 10-mile radius of where it's cheapest to buy gas or something?
Yes, and if you have it on your cell phone or your smartphone knows where you are, so it automatically finds you and tells you the prices in your area and makes a map so you can go right to it.
Well, that's good. It tells you in your area because if it says to drive all the way to San Diego, that I'm going to use too much gas to fill it up. So, yeah.
So that's an app, a phone
Gas
app,
Buddy.
obviously.
It's an app and it's also a website, so you can put in your zip code in the website and it'll tell you.
What other kind of smart phone apps are good?
Well, there's some great ones out there. All the big sites have apps. For instance, Yelp has an app that's terrific because then it uses your GPS on your phone to tell you where you are and what is around you in your area. So that's a great one. There's a wonderful website called flightstats.com, which can tell you whether your plane is on time or not, and that is also a travel app.
What was that? What was that name again?
It's called Flight Stats, like statistics.
Flight stats.
Flight stats.
Flight stats. That's pretty good.
That not only tells you when your plane is coming in, and it can send you information about that, but it gives you a map of the airport.
Okay, now here's the most important question. How do you find a potty?
Yes, that is a very interesting question.
And I don't mean party like let's party on. I mean a bathroom.
I mean a bathroom for the babies or the older ladies. Rick Steves has some information about that. He says always, try, if you're in a restaurant, use it there. And there are, on trains, you can use that kind of thing. There is an app called SitOrSquat.com.
Oh, that's a good one. Because I remember going to Paris, and my wife had to go to the restroom, and this guy was not very kind. I mean, he looked at us and goes, "Oh, this lady looks like she has to go to the bathroom. I'll charge you €1." And back then it was like $1.50. And it's like, I told my wife, I said, "You hold it. We're going to go to somewhere else."
Yeah, exactly.
And then, okay, so Irene, let's get into frequent flyer miles for a minute here, because I know that, like, I've used Travelocity's credit card because I can use it on any airline that Travelocity uses, and I figured out that if I have, let's say, 20,000 miles, it'll be worth $400, which is basically 2 cents a mile. And it's hard to find anything worth more than 2 cents a mile that I found, but why don't you give us some insight?
Well, the Travelocity card is fine. It's fair. If you go to a website called cardhub.com.
Cardhub.com. Okay, what does that one do for us?
You can actually compare cards that offer travel rewards.
It's funny, but all three of us are writing this down.
Write it down.
Yeah, after the show, we're going to check all these out. Because some of them are better if they just give you cash back.
Yes.
Some do.
There's one that's called Capital One Venture Rewards.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I've never had good success with Capital One. But that's just my own personal one.
I know personally, I have a credit card and I use it all the time, and I've accrued frequent flyer miles with I guess a named airline, US Air, and when I ask a year in advance that I want 2 tickets to New York City, they always say, "Gee, we only have 1."
But we'll sell you the other one for $10,000.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So how do you get around that? Because nowadays, I know a lot of people do sell their frequent flyer miles. But
is there a way to do that, or?
I'm not sure about that, but probably Card Hub would have some advice about that.
Okay, that would be good. All right. Any other tidbits for frequent flyers?
Well, they also are recommending on Card Hub. They're recommending there's like a hotel card if you tend to stay in hotels like Chase, Marriott, Rewards, Visa.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a credit card with Marriott.
Yeah. Or American Express Blue Sky, which gives $100 off eligible travel for every 7,500 points.
But how much do they charge for the annual fee?
Yeah, there's a free one and there's one that costs money.
Okay. Yeah.
What's your attitude about getting trip insurance that a lot of people think about getting if they have to cancel for medical reasons or whatever?
Usually you can purchase that through the airline website when you make your reservation. That's set on that.
Irene, do you use any particular search engine when you're doing price comparisons? Are you just using Google, or are there any kind of special for travel websites?
What I use is Bing Travel. The website Bing has a travel subset, and they bought a company that tells you whether the flights you want, whether the tickets are going up, trending up in price, trending down, or whether they're holding steady.
That's kind of interesting. And Irene, you've actually you've written a book, haven't you, that you're going to give to our first 2 callers who asked for the book. What's the name of your book?
The book is called The Internet Book life.
Okay.
Of all of life, yes. And because I'm a librarian and I've been doing this a long time, I've been able to gather websites that help with dating and then getting married and having a baby, websites for school kids, then websites for gardening and travel and pets, and then lifestyle websites like for dieting or even just feeling better and stopping procrastination, which is one of my big.
Wow. So just right now, the first two callers who call our 888-912-1190 number and say, I want the book from Irene, we'll send it off to Irene, your email, and give us your email address, and we'll send that to Irene, and she'll send you a book.
The Internet Book of Life. So, Irene, how often, or do you have to update that periodically?
That's a very good question because the internet is changing all the time.
Right.
I have a blog where I update the websites all the time. And it's on WordPress. It's my first initial and last name, Irene McDermott at wordpress.com. But if you just Google the Internet Book of Life, you'll get right to it and see what my latest websites are.
When did you first publish that book?
That was actually came out late this last year, so it's pretty up to date.
Oh, good.
And it's also available through Amazon.com and even Walmart.com.
Wow, really good.
Good for you.
You can get it on the Kindle and you can get it on for the Sony Reader. So it's available all over the place.
Okay.
Sounds like a great resource.
Any last words before we let you go there, my dear?
Well, I tell you what, if you have any questions on travel or any kind of web advice, just go to your public library and talk to your librarian. That's what we're trained to do.
You know what,
Probably a very underutilized resource in this day and age.
Yeah, and it's funny because library's free, so
Yep.
we checked out about 8 books because we're thinking about taking a trip,
And if
it
we
was
go
very
to
helpful.
the library because we want to find a librarian as knowledgeable as you, in fact, which library would that be?
Well, I hope that my book is like a travel guide to the internet.
Okay, and
Right.
give us that website one more time.
It's imcdermott.wordpress.com, but just Google Internet Book of Life, and you'll get right to it.
Great, Irene McDermott, thank you very much for being a guest on the Best of Investing.
It's my pleasure.
All righty, bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, audience, we are going to cut to our second commercial break, and believe it or not, next week we are going to have another special trivia contest. Can you believe it? And it's going to be
Listen and win.
Listen and win. It's going to be a 2-night stay at the beautiful Millrose Inn in Half Moon Bay. Now, for guests who expect extraordinary personal service, warm hospitality, and meticulous attention to detail, the Millrose Inn of Half Moon Bay is a destination not to be missed. This award-winning boutique inn is renowned for an exuberant garden of year-round color, sinfully comfortable rooms and suites, decadent culinary treats, that's my favorite, and an easy 5-minute walk to the beaches, shops, galleries, and restaurants of vibrant Half Moon Bay. A Millrose Inn massage treatment coupled with our spa enhances your escape. Check them out at millroseinn.com. All right, now we're going to cut to our second commercial break, and again, the theme is what they usually said. This TV show host would usually start off his show saying, "Tonight we have a really big shoe, really big," in which the Beatles first appeared on TV in the U.S. What was the name of this host? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. This TV show host would usually start off his show saying, "Tonight we have a really big shoe, really big," in which the Beatles first appeared on his TV show. And I remember that, 1964. I remember 4 years old, watching all the girls scream and everything. Call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name and your email address. And please speak slowly and spell out your information for us, 1 letter at a time. And we'll be right back.
Cool.
Cool.
Didn't need many hints for that one. That was
That's true.
obvious from the get-go.
From
You could try and ask, what show has the Mary Texacoma in?
the what?
The Mary Texacoma.
The Texaco? Yeah, the Jack Benny show.
Milk Bro.
Milbro, oh, I forgot. when he dressed up like a girl. Uncle Milty. Yeah, I used to love that guy. He was great. So it's funny. I was really not a big Bob Hope fan until because it was a little too much before my time. But then just starting to read like some of the stuff. That guy was so funny. It was amazing how funny he was.
Yeah, I never was a fan of his either.
What?
Jack Benny
Oh, I like Jack
or
Benny.
Red Skelton.
Yeah, I kind of like
Sort
Red
of
Skelton.
slapstick.
Yeah.
Or Jackie Gleason.
I tell you, the best thing was the Singing in the Rain, Donald O'Connor. If you ever watched that, him, boy, he was amazing. Okay. Email time, my friends?
Yes.
Okay.
Underwater homes decrease.
California,
It's because
and
they're
then
subsiding.
dramatic increase in foreclosure cancellations. So you got
Oh,
this
that's
happening because of government intervention. You got this happening just basically because we're starting to.
Well, I read some
Sell.
guy saying that, because this is a false blip, because the prices are going to plummet another 50%.
What? Who said that?
There is.
He's on crack. That's bull. That's,
Well,
He
this
said
is
it's a fake thing because they're getting the shadow inventory. They haven't released it yet.
no, that's nonsense. That's not
And the
gonna
stock
happen.
market's going to go to 7,000.
He didn't say that.
Those are the guys that say buy gold and that we're going to be a one world order, and they're total crazies out there. They're,
Well, gold is higher than I ever thought it would ever be.
yeah, but unfortunately they have their own weekend radio shows.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
You're
If
flipping through.
I mean, if you think
We should
about
buy gold, silver, and platinum right now.
But you know what? All you have to be is a contrarian, and
Yeah.
then suddenly you make
Right.
headlines.
Right. So that guy's a contrarian. He's, I would say, that is like 98% probability of not happening.
Well, there's statistics he can use. It's just some people underwater and some of these people delinquent.
Yeah.
Well, also, he said, but a better thing to do is look at price per square foot. That part I can understand because you can't say prices went up because a house sold for $5 million compared to the last house was $1 million.
Well, that's funny because
Well, there's no recovery going on right now. That's true. So we're not back in the days of appreciation anytime soon. There's no indication of that. But there's recovery that's happening, in stutter steps. But in fact, the two things I have right now are actually indications that we're not in a recovery and this is going to be prolonged. But I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing because if it takes home appreciation to recover, that's fucked up. Not that I'm going to say that on the air, but
just on the YouTube.
just on the YouTube. Because that's not that's
I don't know how to put that out.
the recovery is to have a recovery dependent on real estate inflation and appreciation.
Yeah,
That's not a good thing. I mean, it's it should be increased productivity and.
You mean like the last boom versus the boom before that?
Yeah, well, that was a
that.
false boom. It really was.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
You'll like the last trivia one. Okay, we got.
Dang it.
Alright.
Sorry.
What's this about YouTube?
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hoff of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. When we get to the second commercial break, well, that's a long one, we asked this trivia question. This TV show host would usually start off the show saying, tonight we have a really big show, really big, in which the Beatles first appeared on his U.S. show.
Well, that was too easy. Ed Sullivan. Of
Ed
course.
Sullivan, that is correct. Very good. Okay, we're going to get right into email time because we have a good one here for Mark. This cuts right to the quick. Ready? I've been thinking about investing with your company, but I'm concerned about the risks. Can you tell me what they are?
Oh, okay. So my company, if you're wondering what that question is talking about, is Pacific Private Money Loans, and we're an originator of private money, also known as hard money loans, to real estate investors, and we fund those loans with private individual capital. So the question is a little bit off in that you're not investing, or my investor clients are not investing in my company. What they're investing in is individual notes secured by deeds of trust that we, as licensed California real estate brokers, originate. And originate means we market for and collect loan applications from real estate investors who are looking to mostly buy, fix, and flip property in this market. That's the most common loan request that we get is borrowers who are active real estate investors and they're looking to buy, fix, and flip, and they have some of their own capital, but they typically don't have enough, and they're looking to leverage the capital they do have, so they go out and they borrow money, and they don't get it from banks because banks are not making those loans right now. Banks are mostly making consumer home loans, and they're not lending money to real estate investors to buy, fix, and flip real estate. So we exist, Pacific Private Money exists to serve that market, that demand for capital by real estate investors. We underwrite the loan applications. We typically make a loan equal to or no more than 70% of the purchase price. So we require the borrower to come in with a substantial amount of their own capital. We'll write a 65 to 70% loan, and then we'll offer that as a funding opportunity to our clients. And we've got well over 100 clients who subscribe to our lending opportunity distribution list. And so we send those out, and we usually sometimes within minutes, and maybe sometimes within a couple of days, we get a number of people who have an interest in funding that loan. And so the risks really are, in my opinion, very quantifiable, if I may use that word.
Yeah, I read this, not so much investing in your company per se. It's just like what's the risks in investing in trustees. Of course, the emailer isn't here to answer that question, but I'm gathering he's just wondering what the risks of investing in.
So let me paraphrase the question. What are the risks inherent with investing in notes secured by deeds of trust? In other words, what's the risk inherent to lending on Bay Area real estate? Because those are the loans we make. They're secured by Bay Area real estate, and the risks of making those loans are, well, the borrower's not going to pay. He's going to stop paying, and thus you would need to then foreclose. So if you're someone who's looking to invest funds and you need those funds to earn you a monthly income, you live on the monthly interest, you would probably want to think twice before investing in something like this.
It would probably get delayed. It's not going to.
Well, it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, it doesn't disappear.
We normally don't like to work with people who absolutely positively rely on the monthly income from their investment. Although I will tell you, our default rate is extremely low. I mean, virtually of the 400 loans we've written in the last 4 years, we have less than 2% default rate.
And the people when there was a default, those people didn't lose money.
No, they don't lose their money. It just means that they.
I think that's a clarification because before the bubble burst, people were investing in second monies.
Yeah,
and some of them lost because they were lending at a higher and higher percentage of the current value, sometimes up to 90% of the current value. And when the bubble burst and that $500,000 house that they had lent the last $40,000, $50,000 on decreased in value to was only $300,000, they lost their equity. So at that time there was a risk, and people were greedy about it. I think, and I've been in real estate for 30, 40 years in the Bay Area, and I can't see a better time ever than there's been to invest in second deeds of trust like Mark's company.
Well, Mark does first mostly.
Mostly first.
Mostly first.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do mostly first. We
very
do
little
some seconds. They're clearly not as popular to fund a second, and normally you would expect to get a significantly higher return if you fund a second, and that's in fact true. And I do have some sophisticated investor clients that will make a calculated risk, and they will look at all of the facts and make a decision.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the ratio of how big the first is.
Yes, so that if people are borrowing and they're the bank on a first mortgage and they're lending a maximum of 65% of its current value today, it probably means that house was probably worth 1.5 times what it is today in the past. So there's incredible security, and like Mark said, if they're not relying on the monthly income to live on, and for some reason the borrower did stop paying, and they would be able to foreclose and probably end up getting more than their total
Yeah, because
That's
just
because
for
of
the most
the
part,
interest.
just gets deferred for the most part.
Well, and if you're one of those that believes, that the real estate market is due for another correction and we're about to see another big drop in prices, if you're someone like that, then you're probably not one to be investing in, trust deed secured notes. You're probably out there buying gold right now. So, which is fine. Hey, everyone's
Or
entitled to their own
mattresses, so they
opinion.
can
Now,
stick their money in the mattress.
I don't share that opinion. I think we've seen the correction. I don't see appreciation necessarily, and there could be a number of months or quarters of flat activity. But I think we've seen the bottom of the market. I think the bottom of the market was about a year ago. I think it was at the end of 2011, at least in California, and I think we are stable. Stable is different than saying we're in a recovery. I don't think we're in a recovery. I don't think we're in a real estate recovery per se, but I think the market has stabilized, and that is, in my opinion, more important than whether or not we're in a recovery.
I think that is a recovering from the decline in real estate prices, the falling of real estate prices.
That's true.
And if that stopped, then that's the real sound basis for a recovery, setting that basis.
And something you didn't answer in the email, which was not really necessarily asked.
I'm like a politician,
Yeah.
I don't really answer.
But I'm sure that the audience is interested. What interest rates do you charge your borrowers, and what interest rates do you pay your investors?
Well, we're typically paying our investors 8 to 9% right now, and that would be monthly interest paid to them at an annualized rate of between 8 and 9% to fund a first position loan no higher than 70% Bay Area real estate, and the cost to the borrower is typically on average about 1% higher than what we pay the investor. So if the note rate's 10, the investor gets.
Well, what's
9.
amazing to me is the interest rate paid to the lender, your investor, on a 1 month's worth of interest is more than what he's probably earning the whole
That's
year
true.
in the bank.
One month is
Yeah,
about
right.
that. And what is the average length of time that the notes exist?
Well, usually we write mostly 12-month notes, and many of those are paid off within 6 to 8 months. So it's not a long-term commitment. If you're really, in fact, if you want to kind of get in and get your feet wet and try it out, investing in a loan that's made to someone who's buying, fixing, and flipping is a good way to do that, because your loan will generally be paid back within, like I said, 6 to 8 months. So people usually start out doing that, and then as they get comfortable with it, they'll start looking for maybe 18 to 24 month loans, where again you're not committing a long-term use of your funds, but you have a little bit more on a 24-month loan. Your money's working for you longer.
Okay, and for either lender, investors, or borrowers, because they can each get a hold of you.
Yes.
How do they get a hold of you?
We've got a Bay Area phone number, 415-883-2150, and that's Pacific Private Money. You can go to our website, pacificprivatemoney.com. There's a link on that to our investor website, which is pacificprivateinvestments.com. That'll give you some more information on trust deed investing. Or you can find us on thebestofInvesting.com
There
as well.
you go. And Robert, we got an email from you, it says, if I can find a lender who is going to give me a good rate, what is the advantage of using you as my broker?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm always available for clients and referrals, or the general public, for if your uncle is in the business, or you have a local banker and they're offering you some rate or some loan. It's always good to check at different resources and compare and see if what they're offering is really the best available. Or a lot of times I'll get calls from people and say, oh, we have this great loan, and I say, that's great, that's better than anybody I know, but watch out. Some people are quoting rates but really can't do the loan and perform once it comes to it, and often that becomes the case. So
But
especially
they have your file and they're all set.
Yes, yeah. So RPM has about 500 agents all across the country, and we talk back and forth often. And a lot of times we'll have a client come back to us at the end. Oh my God, you were right. Now we're trying to close the deal, and there's a problem, and they won't answer the phone, or they can't do it, or they said suddenly, oh, there's a $8,000 fee that we forgot to tell you about, which is illegal in these new law days. So we step in, and because we're a mortgage bank, often we can turn a deal quicker than just a broker can.
And they're not allowed to collect an upfront fee, are they?
No, you shouldn't be paying anybody an upfront fee at all.
Okay.
You have to have disclosures from a bank that list all the closing costs and exactly what they're going to be, and only then could they take in your application and ask you perhaps to pay an upfront fee for an appraisal.
Well, you know, it's interesting too because you've been around for many, many years, and a lot of brokers went in and out of the business. So
they did. Some of them just loved it when they didn't have to work and could just do a loan, and now that they have to work, they went on to something else. Or there's so many regulations and laws that you have to keep up with and make sure you're doing it correctly. That some of them didn't.
What kind of rates are you quoting people right now?
I have people used to call me and say, "What's your best rate?" And I didn't know who they were, what their criteria was, so I'd say my best rate is 0.75%.
Yeah.
And they'd say, "What do you mean?" I'd say, "Well, what do you mean? Before I can quote a rate, I really have to know the clients, how much they're borrowing, how much they are investing in, what the LTV is, what their credit history is, because invariably you quote a rate and then you find out, they're unemployed, so they still expect that rate. But generally, especially in conforming rates, they've been pretty stable, and a 30-year fixed is in the neighborhood of between 3.25% and 3.5%.
Excellent.
We just had another historical low this past week, didn't we?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Well,
How low can it go?
Well, we're worried about fiscal cliff.
We're close to it. I mean, they can't go much lower, and dealing with the fiscal cliff, the famous fiscal cliff.
I know that guy.
There's a lot of uncertainty. We are all going to get
So,
through it.
Robert, obviously, the most important thing is to deal with an honest guy, which you seem to be a very honest guy. So, how do people get a hold of you if they
Yes,
want to do
my company is RPM Mortgage. Not my company. There's many people in the company, but you can look up the RPM website and go to RPM Mortgage and check for Robert Schiff. Or the best way to get a hold of me is on my cell phone, which is 415-515-1941. We're a mortgage bank. We can fund the loans ourselves, or we can broker them out to many different banks, big banks, and some obscure banks and credit unions that you've never heard of.
Just get the deal done. Okay, we're going to cut to our third and final commercial break. Here's the trivia question. On the Andy Griffith Show, what was the name of the barber who might say, Andy, looks like you need a trim, or where did Cooper? The first three callers with the correct answer. We have too much fun here, I gotta say. First three callers with the correct answer are going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Like, their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. On the Andy Griffith Show, what was the name of the barber who might say, Andy, looks like you need a trim. Make sure to include your name, email address, and remember to speak slowly and spell out your information for us one letter at a time. And when we come back, we're going to talk some awesome economic news. We'll be right back.
Awesome economic news, really? Do you have some?
Awful.
Awful or awesome?
That's okay. Come back with that. That's fine.
That's right.
Stock market in Gaza.
What is the market doing? It's been a little.
Remember, this is.
I never check stocks.
This is two. I mean, you also have Wednesday and Friday, so we can't really quote how the stock market did.
Oh right, yeah. So is there like a half day on Friday?
We can quote how Black Friday has been.
Yeah.
Black Friday.
Black Friday, yeah. What's the over/under on Black Friday?
The over/under.
No,
Niners looked good last night, huh?
Oh my God!
Man, that was like cheap fish in a barrel last night.
Unbelievable. I hope we get to play the Giants again.
That's amazing. I mean, we play the Rams, we're totally flat. We tie them, we can't beat them, and then the
7-2
I thought that Chicago was going to have our lunch, eat our lunch, whatever.
So we've lost to the Giants. We lost to
Pink Ladies. No, that was a different one.
I forget who we lost to.
Let me see what we had here.
tied that horrible game.
Right, we had 2 losses and 1 tie.
Right.
So
Cremated by the Giants. We lost to Philadelphia.
was it Minnesota? How do we play?
Was it Green Bay? Green Bay was the first game.
Yeah, I don't remember anymore.
We left with 8.
It's a short one.
8.
Yeah, I figured it might be a short one.
So when we come back, we'll get into the article, yeah?
Yeah. It's the articles are both on two completely different types of stats related to
Okay.
the real estate market, which I thought was pretty interesting.
All right, here we go. We have to make this real fast. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. Here is the third and final trivia question. On the Andy Griffith Show, what was the name of the barber who might say, "Oh, Andy, that looks like you need a trim"? Gentlemen, who was that?
I'm old, but not that old. I don't remember who that is.
I don't.
Floyd Lawson, Floyd the barber.
Floyd.
Okay, Mark, you've got some excellent. When I cut to the break, I said we had some awesome news. Was it awful
It's
or
not
awesome?
Yeah, well,
Awful.
depends.
Awfulsome,
Awfulsome.
yeah.
Depends how you look. Well, just on this as we wrap up for today, let's talk a little bit about a couple of articles that came out recently that statistics about the real estate market that I thought were interesting. And these are two different statistics that don't go hand in hand, but they're interesting. And one is that there has been a dramatic increase in California foreclosure cancellations. So that's an interesting way to have the headline there.
The banks have been canceling the foreclosure.
So foreclosure cancellations are up quite a bit. So in October they were up 62% from the prior month.
So what does the bank do? What does the bank do?
But now that doesn't mean a postponement. That means they actually foreclosure is taken
I think
out
it includes postponements. I think, in other words, the date, when it came time to sell the property, it was canceled and or postponed. I'm guessing is this, although it does say cancellations, but but what's interesting about that is this increase in foreclosure cancellations has to do really with the fact that we're on January 1st, the new Homeowner Bill of Rights legislation goes into effect, and it restricts the way the banks have been conducting themselves as they foreclose on homes. And so this article was on foreclosureradar.com, and Sean O'Toole, who really tracks this stuff and is very keen, I think, on his insight. He says this is really just another example of where foreclosure trends are driven by government intervention and not necessarily economic recovery. So that's it's interesting that what that means is we're not really dealing with this shadow inventory of non-performing homes, meaning homeowners who are not paying, and that kind of leads to the second article that I thought was interesting. And this one has a headline: Underwater Homes Decrease in California. And right now we have approximately a quarter of all mortgage homes in California are underwater, which I think is an astounding.
That means 25% of the mortgages in the state of California are more than the value of that house?
Well, 25% of mortgaged homes, yes. So 25% of homes with a mortgage, either a first or a first and a second, are underwater. I think that's
for
astounding.
the state of California?
That's the state of California. Now the good news is that it's down from a high of 32%. So it's gone from a third to a quarter. So I guess that's it's heading in the right direction, and that's happening as prices stabilize, and in some markets they've actually increased a little bit. You probably read or heard that. In fact, we talked on the show how, like for example, in San Francisco, in some neighborhoods prices are up 10% from the low. In other places in the Bay Area, like Santa Clara County, are seeing similar trends. So when that happens, those people who are underwater are either less underwater or now they're going over that mark. But here's one more thing.
Float all boats.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's one that I thought was really interesting. Most California homeowners who bought their home at the peak of the boom owe 2 times their home's current fair market value.
Wow. Well,
that's
more than a 50%
not
drop.
true in the Bay Area. In the Bay Area in general.
This is California, so this is California as a whole. The statistic is that if you bought your home at which I'm guessing would be 2006, that it's very likely, that you owe more, and so that's anyway. That's the interesting stat.
That's an interesting stat, and that's what I was getting at before about the value of people who are going to invest in the funds you offer, the more
Yeah.
you
Easy to
offer,
trust.
because they're now
That's
they're
right.
investing in something that's worth 50% of what it was.
Exactly, a lot better. Okay, thoughts for the day. Hitler and Napoleon both had only one testicle. No wonder they both aspired to that famous mythical character, Testicles. And I'd rather be dead than seeing. Sorry, I'd rather be dead than seeing satisfaction when I'm 45," said Mick Jagger before he turned 45. And I think he's just almost 70 years
About
old.
70.
Yeah. So tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. And our guest is going to be David Lee King, who will discuss using social media and your business. That'll be interesting. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, not Testicles, wishing you the best of investing. So long.
Testicles. I need